Okay, welcome back. Let's come back to the question we have in the last video. And if you still remember, we are studying the multi-user accessing the same banking account simultaneously via different ATM machines. If we don't have any protections, we may have very different balances after the transactions. So Alex accessing the account via ATM 1 with your $100 and Bob accessing the account via ATM 2 with your $50. The initial balance is $200. The question is, if we don't have any protections, what can be the final balance? To answer this question, we need to know how the system really runs. What is the DBMS and what's the relationship between DBMS versus the ATM machines? So generally, we're running the DBMS on the servers in the banking system. We have a banking server here. It runs the DBMS, maintains all the data there. And in different locations, we have lots of ATM machines which can be connected to the server via the internet. Right? These lines denote the connections. And we have two users, Alex and Bob. They are accessing the same account from ATM 1 and ATM 2. According to the previous page, the transaction has 4 steps. The first one is to get the balance from DBMS and send to the ATM machine. In the ATM machine, it checks if the balance is larger than $100 or not. If so, then dispense the cash. Then the ATM machine will put a new balance into the DBMS again. It has 4 steps, right? It is similar for Bob at the ATM 2. He also needs to do these 4 steps as shown here. Then the question will be how the system will handle this transaction or these 4 steps. According to our traditional understanding, if they do the transaction in a sequential, for example, we do the NX transaction first and then do the Bob's transaction, or the reverse, the balance should be very safe. Now we have $200, after we show $150, then there will be $50 left. In other words, if the transaction execution process is to do the blue one first and then the red, or the red one first and then the blue, then the final balance they will be the same. They are all the $50 we have, right? However, the DBMS running will have no protections. In other words, when we're executing the blue transaction, the red transaction can cut in at any time. For example, when we're executing the blue transaction for NX, we do the step 1, we get the balance and send to ATM 1. At this moment, transaction 2 from Bob cuts in. So he do the red transaction from step 1 to step 4, and then after this Bob's transaction is finished, we will continue to do the transaction for NX. Right? In other words, NX starts the transaction first, or finish the second. Right? He starts first before Bob, and he finishes later than Bob. If so, what will be the balance for the account? So by checking this transaction steps very carefully, when do the step 1 for the blue transaction, we get a balance from DBMS. The balance here will be $200, right? And then we do the transaction for Bob. We get the balance from DBMS. The transaction here, the balance here should be also $200. We do the 4 steps and write back the balance to DBMS. For the Bob transaction here, after we do the step 4, the balance we write back to DBMS should be 150, right? Because the balance we have for Bob here is 200. And we do the step 1 to step 4 here. And after we finish Bob's transaction, the transaction here will be 150, and we write back to the DBMS server, right? And we continue to do the transaction for NX, step 2 to step 4, and we write back. Remember, for the step 1 here, the transaction NX gets is $200, and after finishing the transaction, the remaining balance will be $100, right? And then NX also writes back the balance into the server and override the transaction just returned by Bob. In other words, the final balance for the account, if we execute in this way, the balance will be $100. right? This is one possible execution process if NX runs first. However, it is also possible that NX runs first and finish first as well. How can it be possible? Now the NX runs first, do a step 1, get a balance. The balance he gets is $200, right? And then at this moment, Bob also runs his transaction, do a step 1, get a balance from DBMS. The balance he gets is also $200, right? And then NX do the remaining transaction. He writes back the balance into the system. He writes back $100 to the balance, right? And then Bob do the transaction. He writes the balance back to the system. The balance is 150. He overwrites the NX balance. And after its execution this way, the final balance will be $150. Right? You can follow me, right? Of course, we can also have some other cases for the execution process if we don't have transaction protections. However, the possible balance we can have will be 50, 100, and 150. We can have different balance left in the banking account. We use this example to show that we need to have some protections for this multiple user access to the DBMS. It is very important for maintaining a very safe and a very accurate system for the data we have.